Right then, so our next little bit is actually about making this scene more interesting. There's no other way to put it. And what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to get a little vase that I made. I've not made this live because well, it takes too much time, and that's not the point of this video. Basically, I'm just going to move this up here anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the source of the water from being right above this bowl to actually being coming out of this vase here. And I'm going to do that just by basically rotating it R along the Y, have it at a slight angle, and then what I need to do is I actually need to grab hold of the sphere that's projecting everything. So our physics sphere, and it's the one with the inflow. What I need to do is I need to go GX and move it along. Might be easier to go into wireframe mode here. Again, GX and popping it along, making sure that it's actually inside this vase. And roughly, a place that logically the water might flow from. Okay, moving on from there, I also need to make sure that this here has a fluid modifier, and that fluid modifier is an extractor. I also need to get hold of my domain cube. I'll just reverse a little bit so I can see it. And I need to basically make sure that that is encapsulated in it. And so in order to do that, all I've done is scaled it by the X to make it big enough. And anything that you want as part of the water fluid animation, it just needs to be inside that area. Okay, now I should have a functioning collision through an effector and a change in the positioning of my inflow. And the end result should be this. Now you can see at the moment, slight problem is that my inflow is actually still going upwards because that's what we set in an earlier video and this Z here. So we were basically telling it to project upwards, but that's because I was creating a fountain effect. Now that I don't have that, I need to change it. I also need to make sure that in order for my water to kind of jump over this gap, it's going to actually have to travel in the negative X. Let me reload that simulation. And you can see it's moving in the right direction. The big question is now, do I keep that where it is, or do I kind of move this vase over this way so that it's nearer here, so that it's not jumping as far. Same with my sphere. So if I again reverse my simulation a bit, G and exit and move it along, and then roll it again. Now this time it looks like it's actually coming out of it. I could change this a little bit more because it still doesn't feel like it's kind of coming out the vase. It seems like it's coming a little bit higher up than that. So maybe here, and there we go. It's actually more coming out of the vase now. We do get a bit of an overspill here, and the decision is really, do I again move this a little bit further? What I want to do is I want to make it feel like it's been planned to get the water into that bowl and not anywhere else. And there we go. We're getting there. We're getting something a lot more sensible. I could even turn around and increase the flow of that. I could potentially, let me show you here, R along the Y to give it a slightly deeper tilt. Again, G and X to move it a bit further in. Again, making sure that my sphere is in the right place to work. Okay, and now we're getting something more practical and something more like a real simulation. I'm still getting a bit of overspill, but I can live with that little bit. And to be honest, I think actually part of the problem is there's something wrong with this mesh. Actually, the leak seems to be coming from the mesh more than anything else. Now that we've got that on the go, I'll actually turn this back Z and solid now so we can actually see what's going on. and you can actually see my water's pouring through, it's pouring down this face, it's flowing out of it, and it's hitting this bowl. We do have this little bit here where we have the outflow taking away excess water, so it's kind of working rather well now, and we're getting some really nice effects. Have a look at it on material preview, and again we've got that kind of glistening water effect. As you probably know by now, if I render the image, the quality definitely goes up on it, and you can kind of get a better sight of the water pouring in, hitting the bowl and sloshing around. Probably need to change my camera angle to get a better shot of it coming out the vase. Now, this is starting to feel like, you know, a more real scene. It's got a lot more going on for it. Gonna just take that and make it a more clay shape, like so. Okay, more shape, color. Right, I'm also going to see now. Now this is going to be the big one. Okay, I've managed to create this one pouring in. I can also potentially start to modify this a bit, and you know, consider putting a better quality stand on it and things like that. Potentially work on ways to create a better outflow, but overall we're getting a pretty decent scene. Now, before I kind of finish up kind of with the basics, I suppose, of liquids, I suppose we've got to talk about how to change certain parts of a liquid just to make it, you know, a bit more interesting. There's no other way to put it. Sometimes just following a pure water effect just isn't that interesting. Okay, so heading down here, we can actually pick up different types of simulation methods. So we've got our flip method. It creates a very splashy type of water, as it says there, whereas this has got more energetic and stable. Now, if I load that up and show you the difference, and you can see here we get a different kind of water flow. It's just a little bit different, but it helps looking at different approaches to water. You can see that for some reason my actual bowl here keeps leaking. I must need to remesh it and get it all filled with all the holes. But there we go, we've got this nice simulation going now. We can choose the water types if we need to basically create different feelings. We can play around with settings as well. We can increase the number of particles. Now, obviously, changing anything like this up increases the rendering time. More particles, obviously, better quality, but you'll see that things start to slow down sometimes. You can even do a minimum number of particles to make sure that, you know, basically you're getting different types of flow. And I think other useful little things. So let's have a look under here. If we go into our let me find it again, I keep losing it. I'm terrible today, aren't I? No, it was under there. Diffusions. So, not really interested in the diffusion per se. I'm actually more interested in the viscosity solver. I'm just going to turn it on, reverse my simulation, and just increase this quite a lot. Now, watch what's happening here. So, one of the things about viscosity is viscosity actually is there to slow down the flow of fluids. So if you kind of imagine that one, you know, I'll better speed that up a bit, shall I? Basically, one type of viscosity, low viscosity, will speed up your flow. High viscosity will drastically slow it down. That will enable you to simulate different thicknesses of fluid. You can see it's running very slow even at 0.6. If I pulled it all the way down to 0, ran it again, now we've got a fast flowing liquid. And it's just worth looking at things like that if you want to change how your simulation flows, particularly if you want to do something like honey, or for instance, or something like that flowing into a bottle. And again, turn off my high viscosity solver to get that water, fast flowing water effect back. Okay, and again, it's always worth having a good look under some of these just to see what else can be played around with. Obviously, you can do things like particle radius to make them wider blobs, for want of a better word. So you can see now we've got a lot larger size to the particles. They're not just kind of little tiny things, they're actually quite large. You can see them kind of popping out a lot more aggressively. You can see here that there's definitely some problems with this mesh. I really need to get it remeshed and tidied up. But you can see if you want like a heavier torrent of water, you can do that. I think I better turn that back down to 2. In fact, if I turn it to 1 again, you'll get a smaller values. There we go, and it's a lot faster because the individual particles are smaller. It's kind of flowing a lot more freely now, this. And I think that's just some useful little things to know. You know, there's lots of little additional widgets to play around with. You only really see what they're doing when you start using them all or for a specific purpose. But other than that, there's our basic fluid setup. So that's how to get ourselves our inflows and everything else set up, get a nice texture to it in the previous videos, and in this one we've just kind of took another source, well, another object, added it to the scene and kind of made that our pouring source to actually just create something different, which could easily be the start of a kind of Roman Greek style fountain. So there we go. I hope you found that useful. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next video.